Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Real American History. I'm your host, Tess Evans, and today I will talk a little bit about the first Thanksgiving. Now, most of us are taught when we're young that the first Thanksgiving took place in the fall of 1621, when at least 90 natives and about 52 English people came together at what is now Plymouth, Massachusetts, to celebrate a very successful harvest. But the story of this first Thanksgiving wasn't actually created until decades later. There was a Thanksgiving that was pretty much originally a regional observance in colonial New England, but they didn't stuff themselves with food. That day was actually reserved for fasting and quiet reflection. But we actually need to go 2 years earlier to 1619 and further south in Virginia to talk about what scholars believe to be the real first Thanksgiving in America. There's a place called Berkeley 100, or what we now know as Berkeley Plantation, that sits about 32 miles west of Williamsburg and pretty much right along the James River. And it was here where 4 British men formed the plantation and chartered a ship named Margaret, which set sail from England on September 16th, 1619, with 36 men on board. Now, after a 2.5-month journey, in which they faced some pretty rough weather, vermin infestation, claustrophobia, and of course some homesickness, they finally landed in the Chesapeake Bay in November, and then made their way up to Berkeley and arrived there on December 4th, 1619. Before they even unloaded the ship, the men were instructed by their captain to kneel and pray right where they stood. And orders in the plantation's charter, which we actually have documentation of, stated that that day, December 4th, of arrival, be celebrated as Thanksgiving, and the date, as ordained, shall be yearly and perpetually kept holy as a day of thanksgiving to Almighty God. So there was actually a sort of a concept of what we know as a Thanksgiving that goes back to the Hebrews and Greeks, and then of course the Romans followed suit. In England, Thanksgiving was celebrated as what they called a harvest home day, basically a celebration of the last day of harvest. Now, fast forward a little bit, and here in America on October 3rd, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln issues his proclamation that says, "I do therefore invite my fellow citizens in every part of the United States to set apart and observe the last Thursday of November next as a day of Thanksgiving." He issued this proclamation hoping to help unite a very, very strongly divided nation at the time, obviously, of course, because this was during the American Civil War. Now, during the mid-1800s, here in America, after different government-proclaimed days of Thanksgiving, the notion of a national Thanksgiving holiday began to be established. At the same time, in American society, Americans felt like they needed some sort of a distinctly origin story that was just Americans. And so this is actually when they crafted the story of the first Thanksgiving in Plymouth, basically what we are taught today. Fast forward again, in 1941, Congress finally passed a law establishing the fourth Thursday in November as the federal Thanksgiving Day holiday. Now, from a Native American perspective, Plymouth's Harvest Festival wasn't exactly as peaceful as what is taught. As throughout most of American history, Natives and English fought wars against each other, and that's basically what happened not too long after this so-called celebration. And that's really one reason why Thanksgiving for some natives is a painful reminder of the devastating impact that European colonization had on these indigenous peoples. In fact, during the Civil Rights Movement, the United American Indians of New England organized the first National Day of Mourning on Thanksgiving Day as a protest against the myth of the first Thanksgiving and the harmful stereotypes that have stuck to indigenous peoples to this day. So that's it for this episode. I will have more information and sources and links in the description notes section. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or would like to learn more about a specific topic, just shoot me an email, realahistory@gmail.com. Until then, thank you all for joining, and I'll see you next time.